What's up, guys? It was overall, I would say, apart from the multiple injuries that we have suffered right as we go into camp, which I'll do a count of here on the stream. It was overall still a pretty good weekend in terms of production, especially production from our key players, at least the ones who are healthy and available. Speaking of healthy and available, there have been some changes to USMNT camp because Tanner Tessman comes in to replace Johnny Cardoso, who had a knee injection to play this weekend, and they want to rest him for camp. Folarin Balogun dislocates his shoulder and is replaced by probably fourth choice striker Brandon Vasquez, although I think Damian Downs could get a look. But guess what? We didn't take Damian Downs to the Olympics, so now Germany's calling him up for the German U20. So now it's kind of like, wait a minute, did we lose our chance to snag Damian Downs? Thank you to whatever that idiot coach's name was. I forget now. So Balogun's gone. He's replaced by Brandon Vasquez, which, him, Pfock, Downs, those are probably the options. And then, who was the other one? Weah wasn't even on the bench for Juve, so it looks like that he's not going to be there either, and they had to replace him with Alejandro Zendejas. Poch's first cap is not looking good, guys. That brings the total number of injuries to, I think almost at least 15 now, because look at the top. Goalkeepers, you have Diego Cochin out. Fullbacks, Serginho Dest and Caleb Wiley are still out, so that's 3. Center backs, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Chris Richards are out. Is there any more that I'm missing? I don't think so. No, those 5. And then, when you go into midfield, you have Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Luca Della Torre, Giovanni Reina. That's already, we're at 9. Then on the wing, Tim Weah is injured, Kevin Paredes is injured, Griffin Yao is injured, Taylor Booth is injured. That's 13. Then up top, we lost Balogun. So that is 14 injuries before we even go into camp. And who knows, there might be more. It's not looking good, guys. But let's not be a Debbie Downer here. Fonseca needs to go. So for anybody asking or wondering what this is about, I'm sure you all know, Milan played Fiorentina today. Pulisic was designated as the penalty taker by Pioli back in February. Now, you could make the argument, well, that doesn't mean he's the penalty taker under Fonseca. However, Tammy Abraham, who only got there this season just 2 weeks ago, said when he took that, remember that game where they won, I think it was 4-1, and he took up one of the 2 penalties, and he said, Pulisic's the penalty taker, but Leao wanted me to have one since it's my birthday or whatever the fuck he said. So clearly this season, they know that Pulisic is the designated penalty taker, right? And so they get a penalty. They're 1-0 down, and Theo Hernandez steps up to take it and misses. And then Theo misses that, and we're all like, why is it not Pulisic, right? And then after that, they get another penalty, and Tammy Abraham's supposed to take it. Or no, Tammy Abraham takes it. And it's not like Pulisic doesn't even go to the ball or anything. So it's very weird what's going on. Either there isn't a designated penalty taker, or Pulisic himself said, I don't want to take these penalties, or the other players were just being greedy, and Pulisic doesn't have the cojones to stop that. I don't know what is going on. But you know who this mostly falls on? Paulo Fonseca. Your job as the coach is to have a clear, designated, not just penalty taker, but you should have a list of top 5 guys so that if he's injured or out, this guy takes it, or this guy takes it. It shouldn't be left up to the players, because that's what causes confusion and nonsense to happen, just like we saw today. So I hope they ask Fonseca in the post-game presser about what happened. Like, is Pulisic the penalty taker or not? Why do you not have one 9 games into the season? Because we could be sitting here on a Pulisic hat trick today, and Milan could have 3 points, but instead they go home with nothing to 14th place Fiorentina. Okay, so I don't know what Fonseca is doing, but he needs to get his fucking shit together and get control of his team. R.L. Lubin says, I saw some Milan fans saying that Fonseca is testing Pully and wants to see him take more initiative and become a leader. What do you mean by testing Pully? Do you mean that Fonseca is now saying Pulisic is not on penalties? Because I don't know if that's necessarily going to do much. Also, you're kind of like hurting yourself by doing that because they just lost 3 points because Pulisic wasn't on penalties. So I don't know what exactly we're trying to accomplish here. I also don't know how you accomplish this and how you do. Like, what are you doing? You're saying Pulisic's not on penalties, or you're saying anybody can take a penalty and hoping that Pulisic will step up? Look, Pulisic is not an aggressive guy when it comes to like being vocal or having leadership or aura of any kind. We all know this. American fans know this better than anybody. But if you're the designated penalty taker, I want to at least see you step up and go, hey, that's my ball. Move, Theo. Yeah, Tammy, shut the fuck up. I'm about to score a penalty. Like, that's kind of what needs to be happening right now. And unless it's very clear that unless Fonseca said he's not the penalty taker, right? They say they are saying that they want Pulley to be more demanding of the ball in those situations. Not sure, though. Yeah, I mean, we all want that, right? Which is why it's weird that Pulisic's not taking penalties. But the real question is he the designated penalty taker or not? That's what we don't know, and I hope we get some answers. I hope they address this with Fonseca because this is kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke on Milan's part, right? Like, I don't know what's happening right now, but this is ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Winelkai says, hey, Pete, how's it going? I'm currently thinking about eating Panera Bread or Subway subs while I'm watching your live. Winelkai, are you sponsored by either Panera or Subway? How do you miss 2 pens? Pete, is it confirmed that Balo won't make it to camp because of his injury? Yes. Yeah, they've already replaced him with Brandon Vasquez. So it's Vasquez. So the 3 guys that are out now on top of everyone else is Balogun, Weah, and Johnny, and they've replaced them with Tanner Tessman, Alex Zendejas, who still thinks he can play for Mexico, apparently, and Brandon Vasquez. So those are the 3 guys that they brought in to replace them. And maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of the stream. But first, let's do the top 10. Now, for the second week in a row, Nathan Harriel of the Philadelphia Union, who is probably battling for 4th choice right back, scored another goal, this time against the Columbus Crew. Played 90 minutes, scored a decent goal. Wasn't quite the golazzo he had the week before. 5 passes into the final third, 5 clearances, 2 interceptions, 4 out of 4 tackles, 1, 4 out of 5 ground duels, 1 out of 3 aerial duels, 1, and 3 fouls drawn. So it wasn't just the goal. He also had a pretty strong performance. He kind of got caught up here after a free kick. So Patrick Schulte saves the free kick, and it sort of, they couldn't get it out of the box, and it fell to him, and he sort of volleyed it nicely into the far post from a bit of a tight angle. So well done to him. Like, I don't think this guy has a long-term USMNT future, but if our 4th choice right back is at least performing in MLS, it's always good for us. Why does Zendejas get a call over Luna? Because Luna is not really a winger, La Verdad. I think if you look at the way Pochettino is operating, he kind of wants everybody in a specific position, and you kind of fit somewhere in the depth chart. If you look at all of his replacements, they were very much like for like. It was Tessman for Johnny. They're both 6s, right? Who can also kind of play the 8. You know, Vasquez is a 9 for Balogun. Zendejas is a winger for Weah. So I think that's what's happening. Luna's more of an attacking midfielder. Same with Paxten Aaronson. Now, sure, you could argue, oh, we could move some guys around. Do we really need? Yes, you could, but I think that's what he's doing. I think he's saying, if you're in this position, this is your position. It's also early, right? I mean, it's his first camp, so we don't know yet. He's going to see everybody himself. It's going to take some time for him to settle into who he likes and who he doesn't. So it's I wouldn't read too much into anything this first camp. You can try to garner some info, but I'm sure it will change over time. So that was Nathan Harriel's goal. And his teammate, Jack McGlynn, also scored against the Columbus Crew. Now, they did lose this game 3-2. Now, Jack McGlynn only played 17 minutes, scored a goal, had 5 passes into the final third, and 6 out of 6 accurate long balls. So he was spraying stuff. This was sort of laid off to him at the edge of the box, and he curled this really nicely into the far post. Really nicely into the far post. Vasquez is going to make Poch think twice about Balo. He is playing on fire right now. First of all, Vasquez has not scored in 4 games for his club. So I don't know what you're saying, first of all. Second of all, even if he was scoring and playing for them, it's Liga MX. Like, the difference between Liga MX and Liga 1 is pretty high. Let me just double check that, make sure I'm not spreading misinformation. Yeah, so he played 30 minutes against San Luis, no goal, no assist. 65 minutes against Chivas, no goal, no assist. 53 minutes against Mazatlan, no goal, no assist. In fact, we have to go back to September 14th for his last goal for Monterrey, and that was against Santos. So this was Jack McGlynn with a really nice finish for the Philadelphia Union. By the way, overall, I'll say he's had a decent first season, Brandon Vasquez, in Liga MX. He has scored, I think, 13 goals and like 2 assists overall across different competitions. So it's not like he's having a bad season. I think Vasquez is probably 4th right now in the depth chart for our number 9. Like, I don't think now that Balo's gone, he's going to start Vasquez. There's Sargent and Pepe, who are also both playing well at higher levels, right? That's fine, but he's been doing a very fine job as a winger for his club team. Who are you talking about, La Verdad? Are you talking about Paxten? Who are you talking about? Luna? You talking about Luna? Let me know in the chat. Let's talk about Serge Ngoma. And a lot of you might not know his name. And the reason you don't know his name is because he broke through. Oh, you're talking about Luna? Yeah, but he's just not a winger. He can play as a winger, but I think he's more of a central attacking midfielder. Look, La Verdad, I'm with you. I think Luna should probably have been called in over Zendejas. But maybe if Poch doesn't see him as a winger, then it might be tough. I'm actually with you, though. I think 15 goal contributions in MLS compared to Zendejas, who's been all over the place in Liga MX and also has a poor record for the USMNT and is also 5-6 years older than Luna. I'm actually with you on that. I'm just not I'm not going to get upset about, there's 15 guys injured and the last call up. You could argue more for Luna. You're right. It's also possible that Poch doesn't really rate MLS because outside of Tim Ream and Miles Robinson and then 2 goalkeepers, he's really not brought any MLSer in his first camp. And even when he had the chance to, with 3 new injuries, he didn't bring in 1. But Serge Ngoma, broke through at the Red Bulls at 16 years old as a very promising winger. And then he's had 2 really rough injuries and has finally just about come back again for the Red Bulls, played 10 minutes and scored a nice goal against Old Man Guzan in MLS. And he's still just 19 years old, so we don't have a lot of faith in him to stay healthy. This does not really paint the picture of the goal. That will be on Patreon tomorrow. He actually received the ball quite nicely in the box on the half turn, beat a defender, and then scored this goal between Brad Guzan and the near post. It was a really nice finish, actually. So credit to Serge Ngoma, and I think he deserves this inclusion just because, he's had a rough couple of years with injuries, and it hasn't been good for him. So now he's back. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can kick on. He's still just 19, so he potentially has a lot of time ahead of him to maybe compete for a winger spot at the U20 World Cup, potentially. Why not? Paxten Aaronson with back-to-back inclusions in the USMNT top 10, played 90 minutes against RKC Valwick. 1 goal. Some people were saying it's a Golazo. I disagree. 4 out of 9 tackles won, 10 out of 14 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, and 1 foul drawn. Not bad from our boy Paxten. And it was an interesting goal because it was literally a Walwick defender tried to dribble out of his own box, and he just took a heavy touch, and it fell right to Paxten onto his left foot. So Paxten didn't even take a touch. He just hit it. He just whacked it. It's not really a Golazo. It's sort of like lucky. It fell to him, and he just whacked it, and it was a good goal. I don't know if I would call it a Golazo, but again, how you define a Golazo is sort of the same way we talk about world-class players. How you define a world-class player might be, different depending on what you define him as. But good for Paxten. It is interesting, I will say, that they were playing him as a winger early on, and more recently they are playing him more as a central attacking midfielder. So it does feel like, his production levels have sort of simultaneously begun with proper usage, right? And so maybe he'll play more as a 10 or an attacking midfielder the rest of the year. And that attacking midfield depth chart for the U.S. is going to be quite thick because you've got Gio. Of course, he's injured a lot. But then you have Tillman, you have Busio, and then you have the two Aaronson boys. You have potentially Diego Luna. Like, there's options there. So if you want to be on the team, you better be producing if you're a 10 because there's options. Next up, Haji Wright of Coventry City FC. Didn't score on the weekend, but he did score in midweek against Blackburn Rovers as Coventry City ran out 3-0 winners over their opponents. Played 90 minutes, scored 1 goal, a nice goal too. Had one chance created, 3 out of 4 successful dribbles, which was a match high. 7 out of 10 ground duels won, 1 out of 3 aerial duels won, and 2 fouls drawn. He hasn't so far been as prolific this season as he has been in the past, Haji Wright. But it was a very nice goal, too. He also received it on the left, beat a defender, cut inside, and finished it it was almost exactly like Sergent Ngoma's goal. It was almost an exact carbon copy of that goal, which hopefully can give him some confidence going into camp. I think he had a really good first weekend for Coventry on opening weekend. I think he had 2 goal contributions. And then since then, he's sort of been in and out of the lineup, sometimes starting, sometimes on the bench, and hasn't really produced. He hasn't been playing poorly. He just hasn't put up the stat numbers that he started putting up last year. So we'll see. He also started a little slowly last year. So we'll see if he picks it up. But this was a nice goal. Kudos to him. With Weah injured, does he get a start in camp, right? Because you're talking about, maybe Pulisic on the right, Haji on the left, Tillman at the 10, Sargent up top. I'd be open to seeing something like that. And then maybe Morris and McKennie as a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1. That would honestly be, I would like to see that. Based on the players available, Sargent up top, Pulisic on the right, Haji on the left, Tillman at the 10, McKennie as the 8, sort of box to box, and then Aiden Morris as the 6/defensive midfielder. That's what I'd like to see. But we'll see if we see it or what Poch does. I have a feeling Poch is going to start Brendan Aaronson because he's a pressing merchant. Diego Luna manages to make the top 5 after a sweet, sweet goal, albeit against the worst team in MLS, San Jose Earthquakes. But whether or not it was a good team or a poor team, this goal was unstoppable by Diego Luna. Also created 2 chances, had 7 passes into the final third, 2 out of 7 ground duels won, 0 out of 1 aerial duels won, which, it's Diego Luna. You don't expect him to be a great aerial duel merchant. This was with his left foot, and the ball was sort of played to him here at the edge of the box. This goal kissed the inside of the post in the 78th minute. Kissed it and bounced in. It was a beautiful, this was a golazo. This was a golazo because it was bouncing and he sort of hit it on the volley. Really, really nice goal by Diego Luna, which, by the way, brings him to 15 goal contributions on the season. And I know he's been a little bit in and out of the lineup. There are times where he doesn't start for RSL, and maybe there's complaints about his consistency. But over time, if you look at his production, this has been far and away his best ever season individually, with 15 goal contributions in MLS. Last year, he didn't do that much until the last two months or so of the season. Then he really started picking it up. But 15, he's on track. He could be on track to get 20 because RSL will absolutely be in the playoffs. So he could absolutely be on track to get 20 goal contributions, which for a 21-year-old is still pretty good. And maybe, and certainly I hope there are, and I've heard there are European teams looking at him. So maybe a move this January could be in the cards for Diego Luna. And maybe with a coach who knows how to use him a little bit better as well. Where would I like him to go? Nowhere too high. Maybe the Eredivisie, I think, would be a good spot for him at first. Go to the Eredivisie, perform well there, and then maybe after that, look at, if you're really good in the Eredivisie, look at a move. Hear me out. Malik Tillman may not stay with PSV Eindhoven after the summer. So Ernie Stewart, American Connection. Seems like the easy answer, though. So that was Diego Luna. Really nice to see. An excellent goal. Now, Weston McKennie technically did not have a goal contribution this week, but he is here on overall performance, particularly the performance against RB Leipzig, which played 90 minutes, created 2 chances, one of which was off Koopmeiners, who should have scored it, but he hit the post instead. 2 out of 3 tackles won, 3 out of 5 ground duels won. Oddly, only 0 out of 6 aerial duels won, which Weston McKennie is usually very good in the air. So that feels a little bit unusual for him. But there are 2 highlight worthy moments. This one, which you all know, the tackle on Xavi Simons that ended up in the game-winning goal. It all began with his tackle, and Thiago Motta, who originally didn't want McKennie in the roster, on the squad at all, praised him for this tackle and said that this tackle was as important, maybe more important than Conceição's goal, which is an incredible thing to say. And he also said this tackle was everything you need to know about Weston McKennie, which is sort of a backhanded compliment, I suppose, because essentially he's saying he's a good working merchant. No, but I think he was complimenting him, and I think Weston McKennie, despite being doubted, and certainly it was his own fault, a lot of it, but certainly he's working his way back in. And I think Juve fans are reluctantly starting to come around on Weston McKennie once again. And that's the thing about Weston McKennie. The same problems continue to exist, but so do the same advantages, right? Like, when he is fit and focused and working hard, he's absolutely a Juve level starter. When he's overweight and just, distracted and unfocused, then he's a liability. And so it's up to McKennie to keep this going. If he keeps this going, he's going to have another strong season, which, like he did last season until the last 2 months, when he started dropping off and goofing around and putting on weight and doing all the things he shouldn't be doing. But this was a really good performance against Leipzig, and I think it is, 5 starts in a row now for Weston McKennie. So long may it continue. This was the assist, what should have been an assist to Koopmeiners. He received this sort of on the half turn. Koopmeiners is in acres of space. I don't understand how he's got that much space. Leipzig's got to do better there. But McKennie just puts it nicely into his path, and sadly his shot hits the goal. The bar, I'm sorry. Otherwise, it would have been a goal for Koopmeiners and an assist for Weston McKennie. Josh Sargent played 2 games this week. Leeds United in midweek, in which he won and scored a penalty, and then scored a goal in Hull in the Norwich's rout of Hull City on the weekend. He did also miss a penalty against Hull City, and I'll be honest, the penalty against Leeds wasn't that great of a penalty, to be honest. It was more of a Ilan Meslier fucked up. But, it went in. So credit where credit is due. Jair Vasquez says, when will Sargent get out of the championship? Well, there were teams that wanted Sargent this summer, but Norwich had a very high price tag for him. Norwich put, I think, 25 mil or more as a price tag for Josh Sargent, which is a lot for a championship player. I said this last week, and I'll say this again. I think that Sargent is overall a better player than Ricardo Pepi. I think he can, he's better in, I don't know if he's better in the air. Pepi's pretty good in the air. Certainly he's better with the hold-up play. He's better in the press. He's faster. His combination work is better. I think that Pepi is a better finisher. The problem with Sargent is he sometimes misses chances he should be finishing. Whereas it's very rare with Ricardo Pepi that you see him miss a chance that you go, he's got to finish that. Rascality says, if Sargent keeps this up, he will be gone in the winter. I think I'm a little torn about Sargent leaving, guys, and I'll tell you why. I don't think he's a Premier League level striker. It's a very tough league to be in. And if he is a Premier League level striker, I think he's probably one of the low-end Premier League teams, like a Southampton or someone like that. The problem with that is, A, you're not going to get a lot of chances, and B, when you do get them, you have to be a high percentage finisher, because if you're missing, you're not going to get 3-4 opportunities and you can miss 1 or 2. I think his level probably is the Bundesliga. He's already played there early on in his career, but I think he's a much better player now, and I think Sargent would actually tear up the Bundesliga. The problem is I can't see a Bundesliga team willing to pay what Norwich would want for Sargent, and so it's kind of a catch-22. The only teams that are willing to pay are teams that are maybe too big for Sargent, but the teams that he should go to can't afford to buy him. I'm also worried that if he helps Norwich get promoted this season, he's not going anywhere, and it's going to be a season of maybe 3 to 5 goals max because they're just not going to create enough in the Premier League. Ivan Henriquez says he should join Fulham. He can become their new Brian McBride. I'm not sure he's a Premier League level player yet, to be honest. I hope I'm wrong. I just think the gap between the Championship and the Prem is very high. I think it is the toughest league in the world to play in. Any weakness you have will be exploited. The pressure is very intense. The speed of play is very high. The physicality is through the roof. There's a lot of great players. It's just, I don't know if Sargent would thrive in the Prem. And so I do think Bundesliga would suit. I think he could absolutely get 15 to 20 goal contributions in the Bundesliga. I just don't think any Bundesliga team not named Dortmund or Bayern would pay for it. And to be honest, I don't think Dortmund would pay 25 million for him either. And he's not a Bayern or Dortmund level striker. Although Dortmund does kind of need a 9, but I don't think they're going to be looking at a guy like Josh Sargent. He's as good as Jimenez at this point, isn't he? You mean Raul Jimenez? I still think Raul Jimenez is a more complete player. I don't think Josh Sargent's as good. If you're talking about Santi Jimenez, then yeah. Santi Jimenez, I think he is better than Santi Jimenez, to be very honest. Okay. This was the goal against Hull. He actually started, and when I talk about his overall hold-up play, he started this goal with his hold-up play, laid it off, made the run, got the cross from Borja Sainz, and finished it. Wasn't the greatest goal in the world, but clinical and good movement to get there just at the right time, right? This was the penalty against Leeds. So he got to receive this ball in the channel, and again, it was good movement, good off-ball movement to get into the channel, got the ball, and looked like he was about to cross, cut it back, and then fouled, as you can very clearly see there. Now, this was the penalty. The penalty was like an arm's length away from Ilan Meslier. I don't actually know why Meslier didn't save it. It felt like Meslier was very slow to get down. And if he was like, maybe he just wanted to stand because he thought Sargent was going to put it in the middle, which he kind of did. But it went kind of close to Meslier. And then he missed the one against Hull. So might not be on penalties for much longer if he can't take them. For Monaco, Folarin Balogun had 2 good games this week, and he was really starting to find form before dislocating his shoulder. But against Dinamo Zagreb, he played 45 minutes in the Champions League. He was on the bench. He didn't start, but came on in the second half and won the penalty from which they equalized. And against Rennes on the weekend, not only did he score a really nice goal, but he was playing well. It felt like the old Balogun that we knew from Rennes. And 3 goals and 1 assist in the last 4 games is great, right? This is what we wanted to see, Balogun regularly producing. And then, of course, he dislocates his shoulder, and he'll probably be out for at least the rest of October, which is really, really frustrating because I really wanted to see him cook under Pochettino. But at least the silver lining is Sargent and Pepe, one or both, deserve an opportunity. And at least it's not a position where we don't have coverage in depth. Like, I'd be okay with starting. Maybe Sargent gets 1 game, Pepe gets the other. Maybe you give Sargent the game at home. I don't know. I think both could work. Or maybe give him 45 in each game. But before we get to Sargent, this was the penalty. Took a touch in the rain, was definitely tackled, as you can see here in the box. And that was the penalty that Monaco equalized from in midweek. And then this was the goal. Again, you'll see it on Patreon tomorrow or even tonight. I might have it done by tonight, but this was not an easy goal, right? First of all, the chip over the keeper was just so cool and so confident. But this ball was played to him at speed. He received it really well on the half turn, used pure pace to burn his defender, and then had time to shoot. Keeper comes out, narrows his angle, no problem. Just chips the keeper very calmly, very coolly with his weak foot. And this is the Balogun that we all know and love, and we know what he can be. He's always on the shoulder of that back line, always trying to make the little darting runs. And when he does, can he be more clinical? Can he be more effective? It felt like there was a confidence thing there before at times where you're like, we know we can do better than that. We've seen it before. And it felt like, okay, it's coming around now. It feels like this is the Balogun we saw at Rennes, because even the quote-unquote bad Balogun last season got 15 goal contributions, right? So this was really good to see. And then sadly, he goes and dislocates his shoulder for camp, which is just such bad timing and such a weird injury. It's not like he pulled a hammy. He dislocated his shoulder. Like, come on, universe. We're trying to get America excited about the USMNT under Pochettino. Maybe we didn't need 15 injuries right now, huh? Not helping out. Not helping out, universe. Last but not least, despite being snubbed on the penalties, Christian Pulisic still scored a sweet goal for Milan in their 2-1 loss to Fiorentina today. I didn't put the rest of his stats because the game literally just ended before we started the stream, but I'll read them to you right here. Stats for Christian Pulisic against, by the way, they subbed him out in the 83rd minute when they needed a goal, and he didn't look happy about it, which is kind of fucking weird because he was their best player today. So it's very weird that they subbed him out. I don't really understand why in the 83rd minute when they needed a goal. So scored a goal, 3 chances created, 2 big chances created. And by the way, he was involved in winning the first penalty too. As he was falling, he played a through ball in for, I think it was Tammy Abraham who was fouled. 3 chances created, 2 big chances created, 1 out of 1 shots, 3 out of 3 successful dribbles, 2 out of 3 accurate crosses, 4 out of 5 ground duels won. He had a good game. He looked very effective, very dangerous, good with his decision-making. Also worked quite hard out of, off the ball, which is kind of an underrated part of his game these days. So yeah, it is, a situation where this was the goal, by the way. I don't understand what happened with those penalties. I don't understand why Theo Hernandez and Tammy Abraham took those penalties when Pulisic is the designated penalty taker, right? This was the cross. He comes over his shoulder and he hits it almost with his ankle instead of his foot, and he chips the defender that he's with, and it just loops up and down into the far post. Really, really nice goal. Not an easy execution. Really not an easy execution, but he absolutely crushed it, bringing him to 8 goal contributions on the season already, which is so frustrating because it could be 11. It could be 11 when he had 3 other, opportunities to take penalties that were taken by other players, right? Twice Tammy Abraham and once Theo Hernandez. I hope we get clarification, and I hope Fonseca starts to understand that Pulisic is his best penalty taker, and it should not be up for debate who takes penalties when Milan wins them, because right now, that's the difference between 3 points and 0 points. And guess what? In a title race, those 3 points may fucking matter at the end of the season. So get your shit together, Pablo. All right. So that's Christian Pulisic. They did not quite make the top 10 this week, but on top of that, Nico Shakiris got an assist for San Jose Earthquakes. Still just 19 years old. Needs to start delivering more regularly. Quinn Sullivan scored in midweek for the Philadelphia Union, so credit to him. And then John Tolkien also had a goal against Toronto midweek. So those 3 had goal contributions in MLS, but did not quite make the top 10. But, bench, call him the bench, whatever. Couple of these here. Jeff Carey. Oh, hey, Jeff. I hope we do well next week with Poch. Yeah, you and me both, man. We kind of need people to get excited again. The summer was very demoralizing for me and all U.S. soccer fans. By the way, you look pretty today. Well, thank you, Jeff. It was demoralizing for all of us, even for me as a content creator. When people are not excited, they don't want to watch content. So, yeah, it was demoralizing for soccer in this country, for soccer fans, for content creators, even for media, right? Because it makes them look. The real reason, really, that we can't get Americans excited about men's soccer in this country is because we suck. And if we stopped sucking, we might get more people to care. And if we could get Americans to care about soccer, it would be so good for the game in this country. But it's sort of a cart and horse situation, because we need more people to pay attention, but we have But then when they pay attention and we deliver shit to them, which we've been doing for Berhalter under 6 years, like serving it up on a platter, I might have done more. A lot of people like message me on social media and say, hey, thank you for your YouTube channel. You've made me fall in love with soccer, or you've made me want to become a fan of the USMNT. But I sometimes wonder if I call family or friends, hey, we're having a game on tonight, we're playing so-and-so, and they go, okay, and they don't usually care about the US, and then they watch, and then they message me, and they're like, bro, we suck. What nonsense have you been saying? And I'm like, yeah, but we're getting better. We have better players now. It's like, and then like the Copa America, I hyped so many people up for this summer for Copa America and Olympics, and then they just served us shit on a platter. And it's like, you guys are letting me down, right? You're complaining about not having enough people in the stands. So when I try to grow the game and get more people to care, and then you put on those performances, you're actively hurt. Those people might not come back because I had one chance to convince them to watch a soccer game. And now they saw it and they were like, this sucks ass. I'm going to go back to baseball, right? So yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. It has sucked. We really need this camp to at least get people excited again, because even some of the diehards are growing weary of the lack of progress and growing weary of the, I guess the lack of excitement, whether it's players not developing quite as they should have, or, injuries being a big one, or the way we approached the Pochettino announcement was maybe not the best. There are reasons for it, but even amongst the diehards, I sense a fatigue, and I don't blame them, because I feel fatigued at times trying to cover this team. Genesis, thank you, says, wouldn't it be a good idea to let the injured players join and meet Pochettino to get to know him? So first of all, that's not up to us. That's up to their clubs, right? If they're injured, they don't have to let them go. Heard Dest saying he will join November camp. I don't know if Dest is joining or not. I haven't heard anything about that, but I will say that if you are injured, the last thing you want to do is get on an airplane, because sitting for a long period of time at a high altitude is not good for your injuries. And travel is fatiguing, and you need to be probably doing physical, depending on the extent of your injury, doing physical therapy, seeing the doctor, having scans done, resting if it's very bad, like getting on a plane just to cross the half the globe just to meet Pochettino is unnecessary. You can meet Pochettino many other times. I don't know if Dest is going to be there or not. But I guess, if Ernie Stewart and Peter Bosch think it's okay, he's also a lot further along on his recovery, right? Like, he's walking normally and everything now. So for him, it's more just about doing PT and strengthening the muscles around that ACL to get him back, hopefully by January, right? Dest too busy with Max Verstappen meetups. So yeah, I don't know, Genesis, if Dest for sure is going to be there, but I do think we don't really have jurisdiction over who can come into camp if they're injured. And personally, I wouldn't want them getting on planes during their injuries, right? It wouldn't be a good thing. All right. So next week, Panama on Saturday, the 12th, and then Mexico away in Guadalajara on the 15th, guys. So 2 exciting games. Tack and I will cover them as per the usual. I might also have a stock up, stock down video ready in midweek, basically looking at stock up, stock down for September, and whose stock rose in the USMNT sort of player pool and whose stock went down. I'll give you a hint. Giovanni Reina's stock, not doing so great. On the other hand, Marlon Fossey's stock might have gotten a boost this last month. So probably looking at 5 guys on each side. And if you guys enjoy that video, we might do it monthly, like just do a stock up, stock down report for the month. Anywho, how's your guys' weekend going? Are club players on vacay during international breaks? No, usually they train. Usually if on international breaks, if their club is not playing and they're not in part of a national team, then they train with their club. Sometimes they have easier schedules training wise, but a lot of times they will train, and they'll call up academy players and they'll have them train together and they'll work on stuff. So they're not really on vacation, no. Yeah, usually the clubs have them in training. Winell Kai, I don't know the answer to this question, and I wish I did, and I'm sure a lot of people want the answer to this question. Why are the U.S. players keep getting injured? Are they all made of glass? Is it really that easy to break a bone? Okay, but we know it's not that easy to break a bone, but when you're playing a high-speed, high-intensity sport with 21 other extreme elite athletes, it is a lot easier to break a bone. Yes. This is a contact sport. I mean, you've never broken a bone. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've never been a professional player at any level, but maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I am. I'm kind of scared if I'm made of glass as well. Yeah. But it is worrying for sure. Like, I don't have this many injuries and just the timing is so bad, you know? And some people say, oh, it's the American development. It's not just players who are developed in the US, though, right? Balogun is injured. Serginho Dest is injured. Johnny Cardoso is injured. These guys were not developed in the American development system, right? So it's not just the American developed players. It's also players who were developed, dual nats, who were developed elsewhere. I'm trying to think who else. But those 3 out of the 15. So if it, I just don't think it's I don't know. I don't know. We're unlucky, maybe. Some players like Adams and Gio, it seems chronic. Some of them, like Balogun dislocating his shoulder, just seems so out of the blue. And it's not that common, right? It's not a common injury. It's not like a groin injury or a knee injury or, a hamstring or an Achilles, groin. Those are more common footballing injuries. Dislocating your shoulder can happen, and it does, but it's certainly not among the most common ones. A couple more super chats here. Take me through the reasons why Pulley didn't take those penalties. I don't know. The Empire lifts back. I wish I knew. Has it come out? Did they ask Fonseca about it? Like anything? Anything? All right. Let me see if I can read this here for you guys. It's in Italian. Oh, let's listen to this. All right, let me pull this up for you guys because this is not good. Let me pull this up for you because this isn't good. All right, so this is from Antonio Vitiello, who I think is a pretty reliable reporter. And this is a direct quote. This is a direct quote from his press conference. Okay. And this is the translation because it's in Italian. So it's Google Translate. I'm just reading it for you guys. If there's an Italian here and it's not accurate, please correct me. But I'm just reading off Google Translate. I don't speak Italian outside of Buongiorno and et cetera, et cetera. Penalty taker's chaos. Fonseca tries to explain. The penalty taker is Pulisic. I don't know why the players changed their minds. I spoke to him and said it must never happen again. So if Pulisic is the penalty taker, and he didn't take those penalties, then that's on him. I'm sorry. That's on him. He should be the guy saying, hey, I'm the penalty taker. Give me the ball. And then if there's a dispute, Fonseca goes, no, he's the penalty taker. What is your problem? So it's partially on Tammy Abraham, and it's partially on, what's his name? Theo Hernandez for trying to take penalties that they don't have any entitlement to. But Pulisic let it happen. He's the penalty taker. So why is he sitting back and letting them take it? This is what I don't understand about Pulisic. Shouldn't you want to stat pad? Shouldn't you want, the guy has 10 out of 10. Alex goes, Pulisic did say something. No, there's no saying anything. There's grabbing the ball and saying, this is my responsibility. Everybody knows I'm the penalty taker. Back off. And then if there's an issue, go to Fonseca and be like, they're taking the penalty. Pulisic needs to grow some fucking cojones, man. No, you are going to fight your John. It's a vibe. Okay. If you walk up to them and go, hey guys, I think I'm supposed to take penalties, they're not going to give you the ball. If you go up to them and say, hey, that's my ball. No, I'm taking it. Then if there's a fight, it's on the other guy. But they know that Pulisic is this soft-spoken, mild-mannered, sweet boy who's never going to have, probably doesn't like confrontation, probably doesn't want to have actual, like, dude, this happens all the time. People go, no, it's my penalty. It's my job. Pulisic, step the fuck up, man. I hope Fonseca lets him have it. And I hope Fonseca lets the other guys have it too. Both Theo and Tammy, because they shouldn't be taken. And they both missed. Franklin Torres. I don't know where you're getting this information that Pulisic is not a great penalty taker. Because he's taken 10 penalties in his life and he has a 100% record. So I don't know why. I don't know why you think that, because he's never missed a penalty before. So he is a good penalty taker. Sure. John says if they respected the coach, they wouldn't have tried that. Yeah, I agree with you. But they'll also go further. I'll go further. If they respected Pulisic, they wouldn't have tried that either. Pulisic has to grab that ball. I think Pulisic is a little bit too like, oh, you want to take it? Okay, sure. No. Now you cost your team 3 points. I'm not saying Pulisic is the only one to blame, but let's all be honest. We know that Pulisic can be a little bit more outspoken. And his very, mild-mannered nature is kind of getting in the way of his and Milan's success right now. Honestly, that's the truth. Be a man. Grab the ball. You're the designated penalty taker. Do the job. Okay? Of course, also Theo Hernandez and Tammy, shut the fuck up because you're both terrible. All right, guys. Great weekend overall. Potential video coming midweek. And then, of course, starting Saturday, we have, USMNT camp, Panama and Mexico away. Last one, Anthony Booker says, Pete, when are the next USMNT games after this October window? In November, we have Nations League. So those games will absolutely matter. Let's see if I missed any super chats. I don't think I did. Oh, I missed one. Sorry. La Verdad. Does Puli's involvement lessen playing centrally? No, doesn't necessarily. He can play centrally, but he's a better winger. He's a better winger than he is a 10, in my opinion. So better to keep. We also have a lot of central midfielders and not enough wingers. So keep him on the right or the left. The left is his best position, but he can play on the right as well. All right, guys. Have a great week. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And Patreon. All the goals and highlights will be out either tonight or tomorrow morning. Have a great one. Talk to y'all soon.